Hello everyone, welcome to another video of Nu-Trix, the Synth guy. Today, well, we'll talk about Superbooth. Now if you don't know about Superbooth, it's an event where they present new synthesizers and what's coming up in the synthesis world. It's in Germany and it's been, if I'm not mistaken, 3 years that it's been around. It might exist in a different name before that, but it's one of the place and time where the different companies come in and they show what's new. But a lot of what you see there are modular synthesizers, but so there's a huge list of modular stuff that came out again this year. So those who are into modular, it's just like a catalog going through this. There's so many options, and so really a lot of cool new devices that came out. So for those modular people, here you go. The first one I want to talk about is Novation. Of course, I'm a circuit user. I have my own circuit, and Novation came out with an update of the editor, and now the editor, on top of managing the memory, now can also manage the patch, so you can actually create your own sounds and use a synthesis. You don't need to go and use another editor, so it's packed into one. And I did a video this week about it, but if you want, actually, if you have it, if you registered user, you can actually download component, which is the editor. Now, if you click on the top, you'll download right away the new version, and then you'll have also the patch editor in your computer. So cool thing. Thank you, Novation, for the support and continuous, effort of bringing new stuff to a box that is now 2-3 years old. 2 years old. I think it's 2 years old now. And as they were presenting that, there was a hint on the fact that there's a new update coming. 1.7 should be coming. They haven't said anything about a moment and time, but it means that there's a 1.7 almost ready to come out. So my guess is that before summer, we're going to have a new version of Novation circuit. Cool again. So cool, that's coming out. What else? Dave Smith with his Sequential Prophet X has been announced, and some of the machine was there. I mean, they brought some of the Prophet X to demo it. The Prophet X is part of the Prophet family. So the Prophet X, what's special about this is that it's actually using samples. So yes, a Prophet, so there's an analog system in it. So there's still filters and VCA, and the analog filters are there. But the raw sample you're playing are very, what they call deep sampling, so very high quality, a lot of layers of samples, and very long, lengthy samples, very organic sounding. And actually, Dave Smith Instrument decided to partner with another brand that does only the sample for them. And in the Prophet X, you have a SSD drive to have all the samples, or just lengthy samples that you have there. So it's a different approach to them, and it creates a stereo system, because you can play in stereo, and a polyphonic stereo sample-based synth. And so if you want real piano sounds, they have really great sounding, supposedly, piano sounds, so, and other stuff. So interesting. It's just another way of having a Prophet, I guess. There is a surprise from IQ Multimedia. If you know IQ Multimedia, it's an Italian brand. They've been making virtual model of effects processor, EQ, distortion for a long time, and they've been very fast into the iPad, iPhone, audio accessories. So they came out with iPhone microphone and iPhone audio interfaces and iPhone guitar connector, so you can play guitar and play the internal effects. So they've been part of the iPad world for audio and media interface for, since the beginning almost. It's really the first time that they're coming up with a synthesizer, and I mean a hardware synthesizer. So, and now they have a very small footprint box that is really interesting. You have a monophonic analog, real analog synth with a little keyboard you can play on it. It's a tactile key, so they're not movable mini keys. It's a tactile interface. And you also have a step sequencer in it, which has something that is really cool, is a motion recording circuit. You can actually record the motion of every different parts of the sound. So you have like filter opening up and closing and stuff like that. What's interesting in all this is the price point. This will be going for about $199 US. So the price point is really where the Volca series is. So the price is really interesting because there's really not a lot of other options in that pricing, and it's going to be full analog. So it's going to be really interesting to test it out to see how efficient it is, or if it's just a promise of something that actually is not delivering. So right now in the video it seems okay, seems interesting. So let's see what's going to be coming out. What else? The one that I think is interesting, but maybe not a lot of people understand what it's for, is Omnisphere from Spectrasonics. They came up with a new version, so an update to 2.5. And now one of the big things they're talking about is the hardware interfacing, meaning that using a list of synthesizers, all the knobs on your synthesizer will actually be assigned to values and control, which have almost the same or the same logic in the virtual synthesizer. So if you want to touch and change, I don't know, the pulse width modulation, it will change something like the pulse width modulation in your synthesizer. If you change the filter, it will change the same type of parameter in the filter of the synth. So this interface is interesting because it means that you use a physical hardware synthesizer that you already know well, because you know where to go for each parameter, and they have been mapped to the values of the synth. So right away, by loading that Spectrasonics Omnisphere 2.5, you can really have that, still have that physical and very natural interaction, if you want, with your synth. So that's pretty interesting. Now, the one company that I think surprised a lot of people, and they've been massively aggressive over that for a lot of years now, is our good friends at Behringer. Behringer, or Behringer, depending on how you want to pronounce it, they've been super aggressive in saying we're going to do analog synthesis for now 2 years. I think they've been announcing that and showing off where they're going. The Model D is a good example of recreating the old, classic legendary synthesizers like the Model D from Moog. And as I saw on videos online, it seems to be a very good clone, and it has options that were not available in the original. Why stop in cloning one? Why not just push it a little bit further? So that's interesting. And I'm waiting. I'm probably going to get a couple of Behringer models to test out. So I'm really curious on hearing them and feeling how they're actually built, and the result and the reaction of these devices. I never had a Behringer synth before, and I'm curious on how it is built and the quality and the result, so why not? They had the Model D. They released before that the DeepMind 12, if I'm not mistaken about the name, and they also released the Nu-Trix, which is a semi-modular and synthesizer. So again, a cool little piece of gear. So now they shown that they will have an MS-101, real analog MS-101. The one they shown was a blue one, and what's interesting is, well, it seems to be sounding like the MS-101. Again, it will be something to test one day. They added something that was not on the original, and that's always what they offer. They just open it up a little bit more. They have usually a little bit more connection at the back, and in this case, they have FM synthesis on an MS-101. Interesting, just to open up the palette to other type of sound. So Behringer will be coming up with a MS-101. Also, they shown a unfinished prototype of a Pro 1. Those who don't know the Pro 1, Pro 1 was a monophonic Prophet 5, if you want. Let's wait and see what they do. But it's interesting to see that, also that. And they also were announcing that they would do an Odyssey, ARP Odyssey, which seems to be a fully functional ARP Odyssey. Now, again, the dates are not obvious where it's going to be released, but it's a mix of Behringer and Clark Techniques, because there's some part of it are effects that seems to be in it, and Clark Techniques should be from a high-end quality standpoint. Now the last one that they hinted on, again, it's not totally finished, it's a prototype they're working on, so they were just showing off where they could go in the next year. I mean, usually companies don't talk about that, but they are doing it, and they are showing that they're going to be doing an analog 808. And they call it the RD808. It's a big box. It looks with the same color and layout, but it's not an exact clone of the original. And they have different, you know, options. Like they say, they have multiple compressor in it and stuff like that. But honestly, the question is right now, because it's just in a prototype mode, a lot of what they say that it should be doing or could be doing will again change a lot. So what's interesting is they're doing an analog drum machine that should be in the family of the 808 sound. Now, will it be or will it not be? Again, it's just a question of how can you use it to make some sound. And it's going to be pretty interesting to see where we're going with that. So even if you don't like Behringer, the fact that they're doing that, the other companies will try to do also better stuff. So for me, it's just like, bring it on, because the more you have company trying to get your money to buy their stuff, the more cool stuff we have in front of us. So thank you, Behringer, for pushing the envelope and having the other push again the envelope a little bit further and have cool gear for an affordable price. So interesting. I'm really curious about all that. And the last one I want to talk about is that Roland has also announced in that time frame that they are coming up with a new series of the System 500. Roland, of course, have their own System 500, which is done in partner with Maleco, which is an American company, and everything was done by hand for the first generation of System 500. I think it was like 5 different models. I actually have videos on my YouTube channel about that if you want to check it out. And now they announced it that because when they did it, they didn't have time to produce enough. So they decided to open a factory in Japan. And if you open a factory in Japan, basically it's because you're going to do a lot of these modules and you're going to create others. And you're actually deciding you're going to make module for a lot of years, not just for one, but for many years. So what's cool is that we see right away that they're building the original one that they did, plus they're coming up with new ones. And there's, I think, 4 or 5 of them. There's going to be a mixer. There's different things like a filter from the SH5, if I'm not mistaken. There's a full synth, you know, oscillator filter envelope, I think, on one module. So there's different options that's coming out. But what this basically tells us is that Roland will be doing module for at least another 5 years for modular EuroRack. So that's because they have their factory, and when they do that, is because they have a vision of not 1 year, but many different models in their head for a couple of years. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to bet my money on the fact that we'll see other module almost every year from Roland for modular stuff. So interesting, see where it goes. That's it, guys. Superbooth this year, a couple of cool things coming out. See you soon.